Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Heathen DriveBYE. Today, I got a kind of a special show. A really good friend of mine. He is from the same, well, not from the same hometown as me. He's got a funny accent. He's got a funny accent for an American. I'll tell you that. A good friend of mine. Oh, you got to mute your stuff there, Alan. Well, not from the same hometown as me. He's got a funny accent for an American. I'll tell you that. A good friend of mine. Gotta mute your stuff. Gotta mute your window. Accent for American.
Is that me?
Yep.
Okay, I just switched that off. Done deal. The only thing is now I cannot see the question, so if anybody addresses a question to me, just give me a heads up.
I'll keep an eye.
Thank you. Just tell me what they ask.
Well, anyway, Alan and I are very good friends. Let's put it that way.
Yes, indeed.
And I'm an atheist and he's a theist. So, see, it can happen. People can get along.
Exactly.
But anyway, well, Al, why don't you give a little bit of you got a channel. He's got a channel that is on YouTube too, and it's Alan Geisdorf. What is your whole story? What's your biography?
Well, as far as our friendship is concerned, we had a pretty interesting introduction, maybe, 30 years ago.
Oh, yeah. Headbutt.
Party. Headbutting. Yeah, it was after that I realized you're pretty good shit. Excuse me. But since then, we've got along great. And we got along great even then. You just took it with a big smile on your face and said, oh, this is interesting. You know, wham, slam you back one with a headbutt.
Yeah, headbutted you right back. Yeah. Yeah, good old days, huh?
Yeah, she's got along since then. And you're a person that one of the few that I can trust. And that's I can count on one hand the amount of people in life that I can trust.
All part of my evil plan.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't know. As far as my stories go, I honestly wouldn't know where to start. I mean, I've always had a.
Well, where did you grow up? You were
I grew up in.
Your father was from Minnesota here.
Yeah, up on the Iron Range area. There, ranges, Grand Rapids area, Cohasset, Iron Range. I was actually born out in March Air Force Base in California, and my mother is English. She's Scottish actually, and my father met her over in England when she was working as a waitress at a local cafe. They got married. And my dad was stationed in a place called Bryce Norton Air Force Base. It's now an RAF base, but back then it was a Mac SAC base. With interceptors there from to go into Europe and for Russia, for the Russian theater back then. And I didn't really see my dad very much, but at a very early age, I had this awareness that there was an entity or being, which other people seem to call God, that I knew there was a conscious entity was existing that sort of I could sense and knew that was there. I guess some people don't have that kind of experience, but from a very young age, I just had that awareness. So I couldn't say that I didn't believe or couldn't believe because of that awareness that I have. And
I just want to make something clear. Alan and I could debate about that on that, but that's not what we're here today for, to debate anything. We can get in heated discussions the way it is. So,
I actually love the debates that you and I have because
it's fun.
The process that goes through it, I think, is great. The things that you come up with as far as your logic and reasoning to produce an answer, and I honestly do listen to you. Now,
that's what I'm trying to do, make people listen.
Yeah, and that's fabulous. As far as me being a theist, I actually am becoming more of an anti-theist because the way that I think is I do a lot of my theological stuff simply for I look at the Greek and the Hebrew backgrounds and the words and their meanings. A theist to me is a person who is into theos, which is a Greek deity. And I'm not into these pagan deities, but I'm not even actually into God. You know, in my studies, and I've done a considerable amount of study, I've discovered that what we have in our Bibles with the name and the term God is actually the name and the term of a Babylonian deity of fortune. So even that is fake. And I've found that there's so much fake stuff in our Bibles that I honestly can no longer take our Bible at face value for what it actually says. So I'm not really a theist. I believe that there is an entity which is a benevolent, a good entity, which is interested in the daily aspects of our life, that wants to, what would I say, interact with us, because we are part of his creation, or his children. So I'm looking at it from that aspect. I used to go to church. I no longer go to church because there's so many lies that I've just found the church doing and being contrary to what the scripture says, i.e. following commandments, keeping the Sabbath. So none of them do it. They're all bloody hypocrites.
And that's where you and I we can touch on the anti-theist part of it, because under my definition of anti-theism, it's just belief that religion is bad for society, and we should just.
I thoroughly agree with you right there.
You come from a different angle and a different reason for coming to your conclusion, but but there is common ground down there, because I can see how, some guy goes out in the woods. This is why I kind of. Some guy goes out in the woods, says he saw God, comes back, and everybody believes him. Yeah. Why is he always alone? And why is it always? So that's why I'm like, why should we make policy according to that? It's that guy. Yeah.
That's exactly what Paul did to us in the Bible. He went out into the desert for 14 years and came back and laid this big heavy trip on everybody that God had revealed to him this or that and everything else. And all he accomplished was producing an absolutely lawless religion, which in essence has absolutely no obedience or listens to our Heavenly Father in the slightest. They blow him off in order to elevate the words of Paul, the so-called apostle, above and beyond our Heavenly Father's words. And that's exactly what happened with Paul, but people don't see that. They think that Paul is this apostle sent by God. No, he's not. He's a big phony. He's a fake. And in our scriptures, if we connect the dots with different things, like in Acts chapter 1, we look at the criteria for a true apostle, you'll see that it's in Acts chapter 1, verses like 20 through 26. Paul can't even qualify on a single criteria of the list which is given.
What is it? You think that Paul, this is your belief, right? That you think Paul is the betrayer, or just a con artist or something like that, and came up with all the stuff in there?
He's the one that really screwed up a bunch of things, because he was a Pharisee. Things in his day were already screwed up as far as the truth is concerned because of the Pharisees and their teachings. One of the biggest griefs, bitches that Messiah had with anybody around, it wasn't the regular people, it was the religious clowns called the Pharisees, where they were living according to their traditions and they weren't listening to what our Heavenly Father said. And Messiah said, for the sake of your tradition, you nullify the word and you worship in vain. So it's a problem which goes back all the way to Paul's day and earlier, because it obviously became well established by that time period. But that problem, he wound up tighter, and he introduced it, flicked it into, and created something called Christianity, and formed a religion, because religion wasn't the original concept of what our Heavenly Father wanted in the first place. Our Heavenly Father hates religion. He hates it with a passion. The people that murdered Messiah were the religious people. The people that he fought about and argued with were the religious people. And he said that the world will hate you as it hated him, and it will persecute as it persecuted him.
Beach Price just asked, didn't Paul make it clear he didn't actually see Jesus?
No, he lied about that. He said he saw him on the road to Damascus, where he was blinded, but no witnesses to that. And secondarily, it's in the book of Acts, where he starts a riot in the Sanhedrin because he got accused of speaking against Moses, and he got fingered by some guys from Asia assemblies, or Asia churches, synagogues, or whatever. And so he got hauled in front of a Sanhedrin, and there he says he was crafty, and he started a riot, and he went in and he lied to a court of law of why he was there. He was there on the charges of speaking against Moses and circumcision, and then he blatantly lied to that court to tell them that he was there on aspects of circumcision or whatever, or resurrection, because he perceived that the Sanhedrin was full of Pharisees and Sadducees, those two rivaling factions of religion within Judaism. One believes in a resurrection and the other one didn't. So he set the entire court, or Sanhedrin, at odds with each other over an issue which they bickered about for a long time. And so it's really amazing. And another thing about Paul, which I think is very fascinating, is that the temple there at that time was always controlled by the Sadducees. The Pharisees never had control of the temple. And the Pharisees and the Sadducees hated each other. They constantly fought with each other. And Paul claims to have been given letters by the high priest to go to Damascus to arrest believers of Messiah. Well, here's the deal. You know, it's just like back in the days of prohibition and segregation. A white man didn't make a black man a business partner because of the prevailing attitude of race and so forth. Well, back in those days, Sadducees fought with the Pharisees like cats and dogs. And there's no way in hell that a Pharisee, that a Sadducee high priest in the temple is going to hire a Pharisee to go and do any deeds for the temple. They just cut them out. They don't hire them. They're blackballed.
We're kind of getting off on a tangent here, though. Right.
Maybe so, but they're interesting facts about Paul being a liar and why I don't accept him.
I think Paul's a liar. I think the whole Bible's a lie. So
there is some truth contained of it, but a big part of it has been so ridiculously messed up by that one person that I can empathize with you people on having struggles with biblical matters. I can see I myself do, and this is through valid, structured learning and research. So I myself have them, and I'm a person that shouldn't have any reservations about the validity of the Bible, and yet I have major reservations. And this is why I can empathize with an atheist. This is why I listen to you to see why, what your thoughts and concerns are. I think, yeah, well, he's got a point there. And I don't argue with you about it.
I don't say much, but it makes sense when I say it.
Yeah. But I find it very, very enlightening as far as seeing your point of view, because I've never really had an atheist as a friend, because in my church days, I was always told that the atheists were the devil and we're not supposed to listen to them. So I've avoided them like the plague. And I didn't actually know you were an atheist until after, I don't know, 30 years of friendship, you finally told me.
Hey, Dave, what we're talking about is actually anti-theism and why a theist and an atheist can both be an anti-theist. That's what we're talking about. Okay, go ahead, Al. Sorry, see, he asked what he might come in here and join us. Really good guy.
Yep. Yeah. Where did I get to again? Oh, with compatibility or empathizing with beliefs as far as being anti-theist. For one, I've discovered that if you actually pray to God, you're praying to a Babylonian devil, and so we've got that theological implication there. And so I can't accept anything in the Bible that is of the nature that's going to be truth to the point to deliver me into a real sense of what is actually going on. It is a highly polluted version of truth, so bad that it will get you worshiping the devil before it gets you actually worshiping the correct entity that is the creator. Is because of what the scribes have done to it. And Messiah did say, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees. And even way back in the days of Jeremiah, he's recorded, he's been saying, talking about the poisonous pen of the scribe. So even way back then, the scribes have been putting error into what we've received today. And honestly, it's messed up. It's messed up so bad that I'm not surprised people are atheists. I'm not surprised they're anti-theist and so forth. And so you've all got very, very good reasons for being atheist.
Well, I mean, too many laws, and this is where my anti-theism comes from, is that I see too many people that have just these really weird beliefs that I don't think they're even moral, that they want to put into law. And that's where I have to say, no, we can't have that. It's poison. There's so many things. There's so many things that are inconsistent with the Bible and whatever it says that there's just nothing that I can accept that would
everything with it being put into the law is basically the offspring and handiwork of the Apostle Paul and his type of people, because what was originally given was simply like
we can even eliminate all of that out of there. Don't even need that. We don't even need to have a framework of whatever.
That's your framework of looking at it, but from my framework of looking at it, I see this going back to some of the original covenants that we had. Say, for instance, Abraham, what he did. Well, he walked with the Creator as a friend. And once we start looking at things, after a while, it becomes evident that what he first gave us wasn't commandments, wasn't statutes, wasn't the law, per se, but it's simply a set of instructions that, like me, I won't be friends with a thief or invite them into my home. That's, a parameter about me for it's a base to base friendship on and to deal with people. And what our Heavenly Father gave to us was a set of instructions that this is the way I am. If you conduct yourself like this, it will be acceptable behavior, and I'll invite you into my home, and we will walk together as friends. He gave us those instructions to walk together with him as a friend, not to be religious, but these religious clowns get in there, and like it talks about the leaven of the Pharisees. That is the leaven of the Pharisees. Religion is the poison which Paul and his crew spread throughout the world. And they go ahead.
Beej has a question for you, and I was doing something else here, and I should have said something earlier, but anyway, what do you think about faith healers? He was asking.
Faith healers. I believe that people do have the ability to heal others. Faith healing, I don't feel should be confined to a religion. I think the individual, per se, whether you believe or not, inside you have those energies to cause a healing to take place. Let's look at quantum physics, for instance. They say that reality doesn't exist until you look at it. Well, the same way with faith healing. If you don't think that you can heal, you never will. And it's the thought, the energy of that thought, which causes the healing to happen. I understand people that
you think it's lack of faith or something then that keeps you from getting healed.
Well, there's faith healers that are running around as Christians that I believe belong to the Babylon mother.
Well, really though, Al, there is no evidence of anything that actually happened. Why don't amputees get healed?
Why don't they get healed? That's a good question. I really don't have an accurate answer to that. As to lump it all together.
That's something that's falsifiable. Is that why? That's what I gotta say about that.
There's cause and effect as well for that.
Yeah, but why don't amputees get healed? It's all these people that have something that's inside of their body that you can't see. So, it's a con game when it comes to the faith healers.
As far as faith healers,
I don't think there's such thing.
I haven't really been around any of them for good 30 years or more because I came out of the church about 30 years ago because I realized it was full of bullshit. And
you were Pentecostal, right?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Yeah, a couple of good friends of mine are actually ex-Pentecostals and stuff. So yeah.
Was it the Godless Iowa?
Godless Iowa, yeah. You've heard of him, huh? That boy sure makes it.
I'm looking forward to meeting him. Actually, he's me and him should be able to converse for quite a while on topics and bat the ball around for a while. And I've listened to a few of his shows actually. And
I typed in Stephen and it said Shane. Sorry, Stephen.
I think talking and coming back from similar backgrounds could probably we'd have a lot to talk about.
I'm getting all hypnotized by that little picture you got behind you there with all that psychedelic shit on it.
Oh yeah. I heard if you stare at it long enough, you see things in 3 dimensions.
Beach Price says one of her closest friends is a Pentecostal.
Cool.
I could cry.
The people themselves are good, but the things they believe in are really freaking whacked.
It's pretty out there, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the mainstream. If there is such thing as mainstream religion.
Yeah. The reason why I quit being a Pentecostal is because you look at the commandments of our Heavenly Father as being a curse or the law or going back to the law. And if you go back to that, then you've fallen from grace. Well, the whole thing that I've discovered that blows that grace all out of the water is that the gospel of grace, which Paul preached, was of his invention. And then once we do a look into what grace actually is and where the name comes from, it's actually from a Roman Greco deity that has basically the same attributes as grace. And what Paul did was to introduce another deity into the which is polytheism. And it's one of the things that the churches in Revelations got accused of, which the doctrines of Balaam. There's multiple deities. Paul did that.
Mr. Geisdorf?
Yes.
I would love to introduce you to a good friend of mine. I would like to introduce you to a very good friend of mine, Alan.
Hey, pleasure, man.
Hello, Alan.
Good to meet you.
It's good to meet you as well.
Likewise.
So, I'm kind of coming in here blind. I was just kind of listening to your position and Johnny's position. So I guess at this point, I'm really just listening. And I don't know if you have any questions for me, or if you want to, put any questions forth to me. For right now, I'm just trying to gauge who you are and where you stand.
Okay. Well, I'm Alan. I'm a blonde, and
he talks funny for a Yank, doesn't he?
Where I stand, I'm not sure where I stand actually, because I don't know of a label to put on it.
I'm not sure. You see, I'm not sure. I've known Alan a while, and I don't even know if I'd call him a theist. I'd probably call him more of a deist. He's almost a deist, where he doesn't. Almost. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're not really, but you still follow. You still have belief in scriptures, like what scripts? What part of the scriptures don't you believe? There's just the Paul part of the gospel. Is that how it goes?
All his letters. Yeah. Basically, there's also portions in the Gospels where you can do this research through what's known as the NIV Bible, the New International Version Bible. You can find places where they've omitted things and added things, and you can tell from the timelines there on these omissions and things that they put in there that it didn't appear in the original scripture, which means that the scribes put it in there. So they done things like the story of the woman caught in adultery, and then him saying, "Whoever is without sin cast the first stone." Well, Messiah didn't say that, and yet it appears in our Bible as a red letter, where he actually.
Which one of the disciples did actually say it, or which one actually comes from Jesus? None of it actually is actually firsthand.
Well, I'm just giving you one point here of something which is in our Bibles that Messiah never said or talked about, that they stuck in there, which is the story of the woman caught in adultery and him who was without sin cast first stone. That doesn't appear in original, and somebody stuck it in there.
Did you maybe watch some of the debates, like who Godless Engineer? He's a mythicist, and who else am I thinking of? That's a mythicist that doesn't believe that Jesus even existed or whatever.
Well, I will agree there, because Jesus is a recent name. The letter J came into the English language in 1564 by a Dutch printer, and he never had the name Jesus. That in itself is another lie, which is stuck in our Bibles. He never had the name Jesus. His name, if we go back, they say us, and we think this is from the Strong's Concordance on names, with him establishing the name of the Messiah as Yeshua, and yet we find in two different places. In one, it says the angel told Joseph to call the child Emmanuel, which means God with us, or the Heavenly Father with us. But so we have another version.
Actually, you're probably talking to a bunch of people here that know the Bible pretty well. So,
I've studied it for years, but we can only find actually within the scripture itself that he should have been called Emmanuel. Now, I always have troubles with that, reading that the name here to Joseph, and the angel tells Joseph to call him Emmanuel. And a couple of verses later, it turns around and calls him Jesus. So, what? Did you just fuck up Joseph? I mean, what did the angel just tell you to name him? And then you turn around and call him Jesus. I mean, questions like this go through my head. Did he screw up, or is this the work of?
Tell you what, that's not the only contradiction in the Bible. So
well, I know. I'm just
the whole thing is the whole thing is a contradiction.
There's a lot in there, but at least allow me to address some of them, which I see as well.
No, I appreciate that. I'm
with you,
I'm just trying to keep us sort of on a tangent here too, so we don't keep it off of a tangent.
I don't exactly know what to talk about except to share what I know.
It's just you and I just chatting here anyway, so it don't matter.
And how I empathize with you, and and atheists in general, because they're even to believe and to study it all out. That's chewing off quite a log there. And then once you really get into in-depth study in there, you start seeing these discrepancies, and you're thinking, have I been believing that? You know, and so forth. And it's through the culmination of my studies, I eventually had to leave the church. I eventually had to say, I am no longer a Christian. I refuse to be a Christian. And I'm not
a philosophical onion layers or the theological onion layers. And
I still have faith or belief or sense of awareness of a creator or supreme being. That I have. It's an internal thing, and I don't know how to explain it.
Beej. Alan argues with fundies all the time on Facebook. That's what he does, is comment back and forth with them.
Yeah.
And see, I don't know, Alan, I think you're an atheist. You just don't even realize it yet.
Well, that's another thing with atheist and agnostic. Because I learned the Greek versions of atheist and agnostic in the terms, I always looked at the agnostic, the gnosis from the Greek knowing, as one who doesn't know he exists, to be different from the atheist, which is the one who knows he exists and yet is against him. And so I think that you are an agnostic. You don't know if he exists.
No, you're talking about the philosophical definition of atheism.
Or I'm talking about the literal Greek definition of the word.
Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy defines it as the way you're describing it.
That doesn't contradict the Greek language, the original Greek language.
No, but here's the thing. Language is fluid. It changes through time. And
I know it does. And so the
word has a colloquial meaning now, too, where it is definitely. And there's certain points or whatever that you can argue about, but basically it just boils down to this. I don't believe that any of the arguments that anybody's put forward to me have any merit. There's no evidence for it.
That's completely understandable. There is no evidence, really.
But I'm to the point of, if there's enough of them arguments like that just don't hold any water, then the opposite is true, that he doesn't exist.
Well, we could say that, but we also cannot with absolute certainty that the awareness of the absence of awareness of something in absence.
I can't say with absolute certainty that pink elephants don't exist. So,
I would look at it from an old school point of view, is you being agnostic, because you're not hostile towards the creator.
An atheist isn't hostile towards it, and that's really not what. See, that's against or whatever, against. Anti can mean that, can it?
Actually, the Greek word anti means
opposed
or instead of.
Yeah.
Not necessarily always against, but the primary for that is instead of or opposed.
I just don't believe he exists. It's not that I'm against it. You know, that's
because of the lack of evidence. Now, I could very well be.
Lack of evidence is evidence to me.
Yeah. Okay.
How about lack of evidence? How about no evidence?
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe you don't have evidence. With me in my life, the evidence that I have, and some may put it down to things like synchronicity or something like that, where I've had a need in life, and events turn out where that need becomes provided, and I didn't have to tell anybody about it. It's like, this is when I broke my coffee pot. Within just a couple of hours, somebody knocked at my door for the first time and said, "Al, do you need a coffee pot?" "Oh, well, thank you." I didn't have money to get one.
I love coffee.
Delivered to my door. And so you look at the events as they happen with synchronicity or something, or whether there's somebody that's looking out for you because they care for you, and the events that happen when you find yourself in, say, a time of need, and within that time period, specific needs of that need, they're addressed and resolved. It's almost as if somebody was looking after you and being involved in your life to make sure that you were okay.
Yeah, but what of situations where the opposite applies, where you have a need in your life and the universe just flat out shits on you?
Yeah, well, there could be a reason for that. I would look into what I've come to understand today. I would start looking in the quantum field area about, like you get the yin and the yang, the good, the bad, the light, the dark. what you sow is what you reap. What's the other statements from there that you get? Well, I saw a license plate one time out in Maine. It's like
karma a bitch.
karma, yeah. Karma's a bitch.
I remember you showed me that cars in the ditch with a
cars in the ditch with a license plate. Karma's a bitch. I just had to crack up by that.
All I'm saying is, from that argument, is that if someone wants to say that I had a need and it was provided, therefore God, that if you had a need and the world, universe, neighbors, whatever it was, actually turned out to be the opposite of what you needed and actually made your life more complicated, what does that imply?
Well, at first you'd have to establish whether you developed a relationship or said hello at least, or become on favorable terms with the idea of, say, a creator existing. If you're not on favorable terms, I don't think that, like in any friendship, that he's under any compulsion to intercede in your life or to take any effect into your life. If you're not personal friends with him, then it's just like, the guy down the street. If I don't know him, I've got no obligation to be a friend to him or any obligation to make sure that he's okay. But the friends that I've established, I have somewhat of an obligation to them to, like for instance, if I own Johnny DriveBYE some money or whatever, I'm obligated to pay him and, to honor my word and pay him when I said I would. There's certain things that come into effect.
Well, you know what happened if you didn't pay me.
Yeah, you probably wring my neck.
I'm not trying to attack you.
Yeah.
I'm actually curious about the arguments, just so you know. There's no maliciousness.
I appreciate that. I'm certainly not here to create any animosity or whatever. Just an understanding, because I'm just starting to deal with atheists and listening to them and understanding them, and I really think you people have really got some good case arguments for some of the difficulties that not only you face, but I face as well. As a theist, I faced great problems with theology itself. The way that it's defined and the way that it's structured, according to the way that our scriptures tell us what the parameters of what is, it looks like all of that stuff of theology, the church, etc., is of the evil one. When you start really getting into depths of it, and so there's a black-white barrier right there between what is going on in the world and what things should be, and the possibilities of what it could be and what it should be. I mean, there are things that our Heavenly Father would like things to be like, but they're not that way because obviously somebody screwed things up. And it's in this screwing up of the process is I guess where we get to suffer for it. But I'm finding out that what we are all bombarded with, that we have in common, is the religiosity of the lies which have been put in by religious clowns, polluting the truth, just destroying people's minds with poisonous thoughts.
That's where I get to, Alan, when it comes to that. I get to the point of Moses.
Huh?
Anyway, I get to the point of where you keep on looking at that. Sorry, there's an echo coming through here, and I don't know. Now I lost my train of thought. I was going to say, when I look at it, you're cherry picking it. Then is what you're doing. So that's what I was getting at. But I lost my train of thought.
Cherry picking. I'm looking at certain points and aspects and trying to connect dots. That can be viewed as cherry picking, but in reality, what I'm doing is I'm looking at different individual points and dots and trying to connect the dots to see what is going on there.
But here's the thing. Here's my question for you then. How do you discern what's true and what's not true? What is your method of going through that to discern what's true in the Bible and what's not true?
We don't have those capabilities. We don't even have the capability.
So why accept any of it?
To determine whether what is right or what is wrong or what is good or what is.
How do you determine what's right and wrong?
Well, you can't do that. I've come to the words.
Then why use it as a tool?
I don't use it as a tool myself. Many people do, but I can't use it as a tool.
Yeah, that's my point of using the Bible at all for any religion at all for for anything.
As far as my studies, the more I study the Bible,
making decisions, period.
the more I want to throw it away because of its corruptions. But we were warned of the corruptions.
But how do you know what's corrupted and what's not corrupted then? How do you know that it's not just Paul? How do you know it's not the rest of the Bible?
Well, it does exist in the rest of the Bible because the prophet Jeremiah warned us about poisonous venom.
How do you know that's true?
Well, you can't really know that's true. And we've had this.
Why accept it?
And you can't. Well, everybody kind of searches for something, you know.
But what don't you want to know what's true and what's not true?
Yes, I do.
So if you're just basically you're just reading it and going that's true, then you're just accepting it off of faith, basically. I think. I mean,
exactly.
Without blind faith.
I have blind faith. Yes, I do that less and less and less. I did that greatly to begin with, and because I think what it is with blindly accepting things that we're raised in a society where our parents, our elders, and the rest of society, we sort of assume that they've already vetted these things for us, that it is true. That's why it's here. And yet you don't realize that they too have been sidelined or deceived by these things. And a lot of times they don't even address them. Like in my family, I have 12 aunts and uncles, and I have a huge family over in England. And in England, I have got 2 brothers and a sister. And out of this huge family of like 100 people or more, I was the only one that went to church. And I started going to church when I was about like 7 years old. And I went by myself because there's only a block down the street. And all my family asked me, why do you go to church? And I tried to give them an answer to that. I said, I don't know. I just go because I like to go. But I didn't really know why I went, but I did go. And so we do things like that. I think we falsely believe that all this has been vetted by those who went before us, our ancestors, who found it to be real. Therefore, we still have it in our society. And that is a wrong thing to have in a society. If it's fake,
we got a better way of figuring things out now. We got the scientific method went from poking something with a dead thing with a stick to what we got now. You know, we're talking to each other online. So there you have it.
It's extremely difficult. Even me, as somebody that believes and studies the Bible, not only in the Greek, but also in the Hebrew, ancient history, history of other religions and so forth. Because believe it or not, there's a lot of paganism which has been mixed into Christianity. Stuff which should not be there, but it's there nonetheless.
Pretty much every American holiday.
Somebody's trying to speak and the microphone is malfunctioning, or
what was that?
I said it's pretty much every single American holiday is paganism.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
Yeah. You go to Scotland, they got a few more. They have a few more pagan holidays there.
Well, what do you think they're based on?
Yeah, yes, true. They're mostly pagan or Greco or Roman, from basically ancestors. That, you know, it's a really tough subject.
Well, the thing is when the polytheism turned into monotheism, then you got a monotheistic belief, which really is contradicting because that God has to take responsibility for both good and evil, and that becomes a big dilemma in the whole thing. That's a big contradiction to me.
It becomes a dilemma, especially when you read in the Bible. He says, "I create good and I create evil." You know,
so you have it. So he created it. Why did he have to? If he's all powerful, you know, then you got the three the omnipresent, omnibenevolent.
Exactly.
Omnipotent. He can't have all three of those.
For why he would create that, I don't have an answer to, because I don't see the reason why. But there may actually be a valid purpose for it.
But he's all. I don't know.
I don't know either. You know,
how many people suffer that don't have to, that are innocent? You know?
These are some of the things I struggle with as well. I mean, you guys, you probably don't struggle. You just flat out say, right, there is no deity, there is no religion, and it's crap, and you just wash your hands with it and walk away. Now,
it's not so much that for me. For me, I've just witnessed everything, and what it is I have no choice in what kind of goes on in certain parts. So it's It just
I hear
it's never been meant anything to me. I've never been I've never had a belief. So,
but I continue to struggle with those issues and having to deal with them and to figure out, work things out, why things are that way. A lot of the time, I can't come up with an answer.
As does everybody. I mean, I can't say I don't struggle. I sure think about it. Sure, yeah. There's a pause.
My struggles are just as much as what you guys are, as far as trying to validate what is true and what isn't. And you know, when you're in the aspect of, like, for instance, should I say something to be true or tell somebody something? Like, they have this thing called evangelism or witnessing. You know, if I was to go like evangelism, and I'd be telling somebody a pack of lies because that was the dogma, the doctrines of that particular church that I went to, I would be lying to somebody, and that's like, you know, for us in our minds, that's the eternal consequences for lying to somebody about their eternal being and awareness of future. To lie to them on something like that, that comes on our head, and you know, that's their blood on my head. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that. So I'm very cautious of what I do tell people or communicate with people in as far as what the scriptures contain. It's been reduced to this. Well, if your Heavenly Father says something, do it and just leave it at that. But then again, Jeremiah tells us that the poison pen of the scribe has already been in there. So it's a lose-lose situation. It's hard to find out what those scribes changed. Because
see, probably impossible. It might be impossible. What if it's impossible that we'd never know?
I believe that at this point now where we're at, it is impossible. We will never find out because they buried it far too.
Then can't we just make our own? What we know what's going to be good for. We know it's going to help us. What's beneficial to us.
Yeah. Yep. Well, if our reasoning for what is beneficial to us is actually beneficial, then that's great. You know, somebody at one time thought that the manufacturing of plastics would be beneficial to us. No, sorry, that was the wrong thing to freaking make. I mean, plastics might be okay, but look at what it's doing to the planet. You know, so even in our efforts to try to do good, we're somehow screwing things up unintentionally, or maybe it wasn't put into place that we should have a system set up to take care or control of whatever the after effects of that particular industry is doing, and have a bit of forethought and vision, you know, to anticipate problems coming up. You know, even there's a lot of preparatory work.
Sorry, guys, got booted. My computer turned off on me all of a sudden. Must be.
Oh yeah. Okay, well, I'll just stand by.
No.
No, you're in the middle of a thought. Please continue.
Can you still hear me?
Oh, yes.
Okay, Johnny DriveBYE got booted from the internet for some reason. His computer went down, so I told him I'd just stay here and chat. What did?
It's because he's evil, and he deserved it.
No, he's not evil. He's probably one of my best trusted friends that I have. He's not evil. I don't think there's a scrap of evil in him.
I agree. I agree. He knows I'm kidding.
I've known him for 30 years.
I can't say that, but
wait,
go ahead, please.
He comes over to my house. Well, we'll talk about him since he's not on right now, so we'll take the time out and talk about him. He comes over to my house and he jams with me. We do music together, and I helped him out on his farm the other day, pick up rocks and stuff to take over to his home and do foundation work around, you know, landscaping work around his yard. We drove out of one of his family's farms with a whole pickup full of huge big rocks, and and he was going after these really big rocks, picking up. I said, "Hey, you're gonna bust a nut picking that one up. You're silly. Take the smaller ones." But wow, you know, you just pick up these huge rocks and so forth. But
I'm pretty sure I saw that video.
Yeah, was I in it as well? Is that? Did you do another?
I don't know.
Well, he must. He's done several trips down there, but I always like to go with him whenever he goes out. So I like going through the rock piles because I collect meteorites, and so that's one hobby of mine.
Oh, you would love where I live. I live in Arizona, and one of the places that I frequently visit for interest is Meteor Crater.
Yeah.
And I have several large meteorites.
Cool. I brought this one, but this one here was the first one that I ever found.
Oh, that's quite large.
Oh, this is one of my small ones. I got some that if I try and lift them up, I'm going to break a nut.
Wow. That's really cool.
Yeah. But I probably have several hundred, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah, you got me beat.
Yeah.
I got a handful.
Well, but it's just a fascinating. I'd be surprised where I find them. I told somebody, I said, I don't think I'm a meteorite collector. I think meteorites collect me, like they gang up on me and they throw themselves in my path where I'm going to be that day. Like, oh, look, pick me up. And I'm walking along and I'm telling you, I find meteorites everywhere. And I don't know what it is, but I had a laugh about it one day. I said, you know what? I bet you if I walked out my door within 8 feet, I could find a meteorite. And we just laughed about it. We just used that as a silly occasion. And you know what? About 3 days later, I went outside, and 3 feet from my door, around the back of the house, the metal siding which is there, somebody had picked up a rock and stuck it down underneath the metal siding to rest the siding on, and sort of they get it straight and have it hang up. He placed a rock there to rest the siding on a strange colored rock. So I dug it out, and it was a meteorite. And I thought, oh my gosh.
That's pretty funny. So then, listening to you, to put the conversation back on track for whenever Johnny gets back, do you believe in free will and the intervention of God and fate?
Oh, that's some heavy questions there. Free roll. I think that we all have freedom of choice, freedom of decisions. That freedom we definitely do have. As far as fate is concerned, that's almost like predestination is involved there, and it's like, you know, you face that. Well, whatever was decided for you, that's cut out for you, and you're going to face it whether you like it or not.